at me when I'm speaking to you! Where are you coming from tonight?
The evidence speaks for itself.
Federal investigators, we have a warrant.
On one side of the hospital, 2 police officers wearing badges that symbolized trust. On the other stood a successful black woman whose calm confidence concealed a truth so extraordinary that, within the next 24 hours, it would shake an entire courthouse. What began as an ordinary traffic stop on a rainy Chicago afternoon would soon expose how quickly power can be abused, when prejudice replaces judgment, and how one composed decision can become the difference between injustice and accountability. Cold rain swept across the streets of downtown Chicago. As evening commuters filled the road with streams of headlights reflecting against the wet pavement, Officer Daniel Bridge sat behind the wheel of his patrol cruiser while Officer Kyle Mercer scanned passing vehicles through the windshield. The pair had worked together for years, earning reputations for making aggressive traffic stops. Though that rarely drew immediate attention, to the public they appeared confident and experienced. To those who had crossed paths with them, they often left behind questions that were never fully answered. A sleek black luxury SUV rolled quietly through the intersection, moving exactly with the flow of traffic. It neither sped nor swerved. Every signal was used correctly, and every traffic law was followed. Yet Briggs' eyes locked onto the vehicle almost instantly. There, he muttered. Mercer glanced over looks expensive. Briggs gave a slight smile before activating the emergency lights. The familiar flash of red and blue illuminated the rainy street, drawing curious looks from nearby drivers. The SUV slowed immediately, signaling before pulling safely to the curb. There was no attempt to flee, no sudden movement, no hesitation. Inside the vehicle, Monica Carter took a slow breath before placing both hands visibly on the steering wheel. Her posture reflected years of discipline and professionalism. She knew that remaining calm during any interaction with law enforcement protected everyone involved. Respect, she believed, should always be offered first, even when it wasn't immediately returned. Officer Briggs approached the driver's window, while Mercer remained several steps behind, carefully observing every movement. Subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. This action process you'll love with us. Good afternoon, ma'am. License, registration, and proof of insurance. His voice carried authority but little courtesy. Monica offered a polite smile. Of course, officer. She informed him before reaching toward her purse, moving slowly so every action remained visible. Within seconds, she handed over every requested document. Thank you. Briggs glanced briefly at the paperwork, before studying Monica instead. What brings you downtown today? I just finished attending a legal conference. You travel through this neighborhood often, whenever work requires it. Her answers were calm, respectful, and direct. Briggs returned to the patrol vehicle, where Mercer leaned closer. Everything clean so far. Mercer looked through the rain-covered windshield toward Monica's SUV. Let's take a closer look. Several minutes passed before Briggs returned step out of the vehicle. Monica looked at him without showing fear. May I ask why, officer? We have reason to conduct additional investigation. Without argument, she unfastened her seatbelt, exited carefully, and stood beside the vehicle exactly where instructed. Her hands remained visible. She answered every question clearly, and never raised her voice. Despite the growing attention from nearby pedestrians, people walking home from work slowed their paces. Flashing patrol lights reflected across storefront windows. A few drivers lowered their windows to watch. Others quietly reached for their phones, sensing that something unusual was unfolding. Mercer circled behind the SUV, while Briggs continued asking Monica routine questions, designed to keep her attention focused, away from the rear of the vehicle. Have you transported anything for anyone today? Know any luggage or packages that don't belong to you? No, officer. Do you mind if we inspect the vehicle? Monica paused for a brief moment, before responding with the same professionalism she had shown from the beginning. I respect your responsibilities, officer, but I also understand my constitutional rights. If you have legal grounds, I will cooperate fully. Her response was confident, informed, and completely respectful. For a split second, Briggs' expression hardened. Behind the SUV, hidden from Monica's view by the angle of the patrol car, Mercer quietly removed a dark duffel bag from the cruiser. Moving quickly, he slipped it into the open cargo compartment, before closing the trunk with practiced precision. Only seconds later, Briggs nodded toward his partner. Go ahead. Mercer walked back to the rear of the SUV, opened the cargo area dramatically, and stared inside as though he had uncovered something shocking. His voice rang across the sidewalk, loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. So we've got illegal cargo. Heads turned instantly, pedestrians froze. Smartphones lifted higher to capture every second, as Briggs reached toward his duty weapon and stepped decisively toward Monica. The flashing patrol lights painted the rain-soaked street in shades of red and blue. As Officer Briggs took another deliberate step toward Monica Carter, every pair of eyes nearby remained fixed on the unfolding scene. Office workers, delivery drivers, restaurant employees and commuters paused their routines, sensing they were witnessing something far more serious than a routine traffic stop. Briggs' voice echoed across the sidewalk. Ma'am, place your hands behind your back. Monica didn't argue. She didn't shout. She didn't resist instead. She slowly raised her hands and looked directly at both officers with remarkable composure. I will cooperate fully. Officer Mercer quickly secured handcuffs around her wrists, while Briggs announced loudly enough for every bystander to hear. You are being detained on suspicion of transporting illegal contraband. The accusation spread through the growing crowd almost instantly. Several people began recording with their phones. Others whispered among themselves, she doesn't look like a criminal. Something about this doesn't feel right. Monica remained silent. Years of legal experience had taught her that emotions often cloud judgment, but patience allows truth to reveal itself. Although humiliation weighed heavily on her shoulders, she refused to allow anger to dictate her actions. She understood that dignity is often tested, most severely when someone attempts to take it away. As Mercer escorted her toward the patrol vehicle, Monica calmly spoke, Officer. May I ask one question? Briggs nodded cautiously. Tell me in comments, what is your family judge name, where your body camera is recording throughout this entire stop? So the question landed with unexpected weight. For a brief moment, neither officer answered. Briggs quickly broke the silence. Our procedures are none of your concern. Monica simply nodded. I understand. The confidence in her voice unsettled both officers, more than any argument could have. Minutes later, the patrol vehicle arrived at the county detention facility. Officers inside processed Monica with routine paperwork, while Briggs completed an incident report describing the alleged discovery of illegal cargo inside her SUV. Every line of the report appeared polished. Every statement seemed rehearsed. Every detail was designed to create the appearance of a lawful arrest. Meanwhile, Monica answered every booking question respectfully. She treated every deputy with courtesy because she understood an important truth. One person's misconduct should never define an entire profession. Throughout her legal career, she had worked alongside countless honorable police officers who risked their lives daily to protect families, defend neighborhoods, and uphold the Constitution with integrity. She believed deeply that good officers deserved public trust because they earned it through honesty and service. Unfortunately, she also believed that those who abused the badge weakened every officer who wore one with honor. Several deputies quietly noticed her unusual calm. One young deputy asked politely, Ma'am, are you all right? Monica smiled gently. I'm disappointed. But I'm all right. You don't seem scared. I've learned the truth doesn't panic. The deputy couldn't explain why. Those words stayed with him long after he walked away. Hours passed as detectives reviewed the arrest paperwork. Small inconsistencies slowly began appearing. Between Briggs' written report and Mercer's supplemental statement, one report listed a different timeline. Another described a sequence that didn't perfectly match departmental procedure. No one raised concerns yet, but experienced investigators noticed details. Late that evening, Monica was permitted a phone call. She made only one. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. Her tone remained calm, professional, measured. She never demanded special treatment. She never mentioned her title. She simply requested that specific legal documents be delivered to the courthouse the following morning and asked that proper procedures be followed exactly as required under state law. Nothing more across town. Briggs and Mercer celebrated what they believed had been another successful arrest. Sitting inside a neighborhood sports bar, they laughed while watching highlights on television. Mercer raised his glass case closed. Briggs smirked, another easy caller. Neither officer realized Internal Affairs had already received an anonymous message containing a short cell phone video recorded during the traffic stop. The footage was distant and partially blocked by passing vehicles. It revealed nothing conclusive, but investigators immediately noticed something unusual. The patrol vehicle's emergency lights activated several seconds before either officer approached Monica's SUV. Yet, according to Briggs' report, they had already observed suspicious activity before initiating the stop. The timeline didn't fully align. One experienced investigator quietly marked the file for additional review. The next morning, the county courthouse buzzed with its usual rhythm. Attorneys hurried through security carrying thick case files. Prosecutors prepared morning calendars. Families waited anxiously outside courtrooms hoping for justice, closure, or another chance. Word quietly spread among courthouse employees that an unusual hearing had been scheduled. Several veteran attorneys exchanged curious glances. The judge personally requested the complete arrest file. That's unusual. So is the speed. Inside a nearby conference room, Monica changed from detention clothing into a neatly pressed navy business suit that had been delivered early that morning. She straightened her jacket, gathered a small folder containing official documents, and thanked the court officer who escorted her. "Thank you for treating me with respect." The officer nodded. "Everyone deserves that, ma'am." Those simple words reminded Monica why America's justice system continued to endure. Despite its imperfections, it was built upon the belief that fairness belongs to every citizen, not because people are powerful, wealthy, or influential, but because equal justice under the law is the foundation of democracy. As the courthouse clock approached 9, journalists began gathering outside one particular courtroom after hearing rumors surrounding the previous night's high-profile arrest. Camera crews assembled, reporters prepared live broadcasts. Neither Briggs nor Mercer paid much attention. Both officers confidently adjusted their uniforms before entering the courtroom, believing they were about to receive praise for removing another dangerous criminal from the streets. Their fabricated evidence sat neatly inside an official evidence box. Waiting to support testimony, they had already rehearsed repeatedly. On the drive to court, the courtroom settled into complete silence. As the clerk called the case, every chair in the gallery was occupied. Reporters adjusted their cameras, attorneys organized their files, and spectators leaned forward with quiet curiosity. Officer Daniel Briggs and Officer Kyle Mercer stood confidently near the prosecution table, convinced they were about to testify in another straightforward criminal proceeding. Then the courtroom doors behind the judge's chambers opened. All rise, everyone stood. The room fell so quiet that the sound of footsteps echoed across the polished wooden floor. Briggs glanced toward the bench with complete confidence. That confidence disappeared instantly. Walking toward the bench in black judicial robes was the very woman they had arrested the previous evening. Monica Carter, the Honorable Judge Monica Carter. Mercer's face turned pale. Briggs stared without blinking, as though his mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. Several reporters exchanged stunned looks before quickly scribbling notes. The prosecutor quietly whispered, "Is this the same woman?" No one answered. Judge Carter took her seat with the professionalism expected of every federal and state judicial leader. Her expression showed neither anger nor satisfaction. It reflected only discipline, fairness, and respect for the rule of law. She looked across the courtroom. "Good morning." Her voice was steady, confident, completely controlled. "The record will reflect that, due to my direct involvement in the events surrounding this case, I will not preside over any determination of guilt or innocence. However, before this matter is reassigned, there are serious questions regarding the legality of the arrest, procedures, and the handling of evidence that require immediate review." Every attorney in the room understood exactly what she meant. This wasn't about personal revenge. It was about protecting the integrity of the justice system. Judge Carter continued, "In the United States, every citizen deserves equal protection under the Constitution. That principle applies whether the individual is a judge, a teacher, a construction worker, a police officer, or someone experiencing homelessness. Justice cannot depend upon appearance, race, occupation, or social status." The gallery remained silent. Even Briggs avoided eye contact. Judge Carter requested that the evidence chain, body camera records, dispatch logs, and available surveillance footage be presented immediately. The courtroom technicians connected multiple video feeds to large display screens. The first recording showed dispatch timestamps. The second displayed GPS movement from the patrol vehicle. Then came surveillance footage, collected from a nearby office building overlooking the street where the traffic stop had occurred. The video quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Everyone watched as Monica's SUV pulled safely to the curb. Officer Briggs approached the driver's side. Officer Mercer walked behind the vehicle. Seconds later, Mercer looked around carefully before removing a dark duffel bag from the patrol cruiser. He quietly placed it inside Monica's SUV. A gasp swept across the courtroom. Someone in the gallery whispered, "Oh my God." Another angle from a nearby parking garage confirmed the exact same sequence, frame by frame, second by second. The truth became impossible to deny. The prosecution attorney slowly lowered his file onto the table. He no longer had a case internal affairs investigators. Sitting in the back row exchanged serious looks. Before standing, Judge Carter turned toward Briggs. "Officer Briggs, do you dispute what this court has just witnessed?" His mouth opened. No words came out. She then looked at Mercer. Officer Mercer, his hands trembled. I want an attorney." The silence that followed carried more weight than any confession. Judge Carter nodded respectfully. "That is your constitutional right." Her response reminded everyone in the courtroom that constitutional rights belong to every American, even to those accused of violating the law themselves. "Now tell me the current time in your beloved city." The police chief slowly rose from his seat. His expression reflected disappointment rather than anger. He walked toward Briggs and Mercer. Without raising his voice, he spoke quietly. "A badge represents public trust." Neither officer could meet his eyes. It was never meant to be used as a weapon. He signaled to the internal affairs investigators. Both officers surrendered their service weapons and badges. Moments later, handcuffs were secured around the very wrists that had unlawfully restrained an innocent citizen less than 24 hours earlier. Several officers watching from the gallery lowered their heads. Many felt no satisfaction, only sadness, because every dishonest officer damages the reputation of thousands of honorable men and women who wear the badge with courage, integrity, and sacrifice every single day. Judge Carter watched silently. She understood that accountability strengthens law enforcement rather than weakens it. Communities trust police most when misconduct is confronted honestly instead of hidden. As Briggs and Mercer were escorted from the courtroom, television cameras captured every moment. Outside the courthouse, reporters immediately interrupted their scheduled broadcasts. Later that afternoon, Judge Carter addressed a gathering of law enforcement officials, community leaders, students, and local residents. She stepped behind the podium. The room became silent when people abuse authority. She began. "They don't merely harm one individual. They weaken public confidence in every honest, public servant who faithfully performs their duty." She paused. "I have spent my career working alongside exceptional police officers who risk their lives every day to protect complete strangers. They deserve our gratitude and respect." Many officers in attendance nodded proudly, but respect for law enforcement grows stronger, not weaker, when those who violate their oath are held accountable. Accountability is not the enemy of justice. Accountability is justice. The audience responded with sustained applause. Her words quickly spread across television networks, newspapers, podcasts, and social media throughout the country. For many young black women watching from their homes, schools, and workplaces, Monica Carter became more than a judge. She became proof that education, character, patience, and courage can overcome humiliation without surrendering dignity. For many police officers, the case became an important reminder that every traffic stop carries enormous responsibility. Most officers serve honorably, protect their communities selflessly, and return home each night after making difficult decisions under pressure. Their commitment deserves recognition, and stories like this highlight why integrity is the foundation of effective policing. Months later, the department introduced stronger evidence handling procedures, expanded ethics training, mandatory body camera compliance reviews, and additional community partnerships designed to rebuild public trust. Positive change had emerged from a painful lesson. The courthouse returned to its normal rhythm. Traffic once again filled Chicago's busy streets. Police officers continued answering emergency calls. Judges continued defending the Constitution, because in the end a badge earns respect through integrity, and a courtroom earns trust through fairness. When both work together with honesty, entire communities become stronger.